This month, it was revealed that the Department of Defense ran a $22 million effort to document and research UFOs. But is the Pentagon sitting on a trove of extraterrestrial evidence, or is this just the latest fuel for conspiracy theorists? UFO researcher and historian Richard Dolan joins us to deliver some insight into the government's so-called Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. Richard, thank you so much for being with us. Now, for so long, the government has denied the existence of alien life, but now it seems they could be sitting on some evidence of alien life. So what can you tell us about this now defunct Pentagon program, and does it lend any credibility to the possible existence of alien life?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on, Paula. I think this is a very interesting development that's happened in this last month. It is true that the United States government for many years has completely denied any overt interest in what we would call UFOs. On the other hand, that's always been contradicted by a large body of declassified evidence. It has come out by bits and bits since the 1970s through the Freedom of Information Act, which have, in many cases, shown that there have been lots and lots of military encounters with highly unconventional objects that just defy any kind of normal explanation. So this is a phenomenon that they know about. They just don't like talking about it because I don't think that they either don't have full answers and know what to tell us, or maybe they do have answers and they'd rather not tell us as well. This new program is interesting because it is an acknowledgement by the Pentagon itself, after investigation by New York Times journalists, of a program to study UFOs. And this goes right up into our own century. It was only shut down a few years ago. And they've had some very, very unusual cases that they, again, cannot explain. Just as in the 1950s and 60s, so too in the 21st century.
Unusual and fascinating. Now, much of the funding went to a billionaire friend of former Senator Harry Reid, Robert Bigelow. His company, Bigelow Aerospace, claims it recovered materials from, quote, unidentified aerial phenomenon. Now, what can you tell us about Bigelow Aerospace and what it actually found?
Well, I'm very glad you're asking this question. It's an unusual one, and I'm not hearing it asked anywhere else in the media. But this was one of the little bombshells that came out in the New York Times piece a couple of weeks ago, that objects that were recovered from these encounters, or somehow UFOs have been recovered and studied. This is a claim that's been going for years and years and years, and the government would blandly just say, no, that's never happened, never happened. And suddenly now, boom, here's the acknowledgement that they've been doing it. What nobody knows, or at least what I don't know, is what Bigelow Aerospace has determined what these objects are. But they're a major company. Robert Bigelow has run this company for many, many years. He's been a defense contractor for a long time. He's clearly very well connected, and has personally indicated a strong interest in UFOs for a long, long time.
Now, one of the highlights of this recent fervor is footage from a Navy F-18 showing what has been described as, quote, aircraft surrounded by a glowing aura traveling at a high speed and rotating as it moves. Now, some could argue that this is just the latest in a series of these dubious UFO sightings. But in your expert opinion, is there anything different about this specific account?
Yes, I think it's very interesting. And I mean, look, when you look at some of these UFO videos on their own without context, it's easy to be dismissive of them and say, oh, well, that doesn't prove anything. But we have to look at everything in context. And this video was released by the Navy in connection with an incredibly fascinating UFO encounter. The Navy had not a particular object for 2 weeks before they actually sent a couple of F-18A Hornets to intercept. Those are top-of-the-line fighter jets, by the way, and who were completely outclassed by this object that people are able to see on video here. So it's quite interesting. That object had been tracked at an altitude of 80,000 feet, which is very high, dropping down to 20,000 feet, apparently quite easily, and then was seen either at the water level or below the water, making maneuvers that I think the pilot of the F-18A said, basically, I don't know what that is, but I want to fly it.
Wow. Richard Dolan, thank you so much for joining us to share your expertise on this fascinating subject. Thank you.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.